Mike here, head trader at True Trading Group, and February 19th, big day for me, and it only took one trade. And that's what today is all about. One and done. Okay, it's about quality over quantity. I've gone back, and I'd say over the last year of trading, some of my biggest days are not, days that I'm trading 7, 8 different stocks. Some of my biggest days are when I just trade one or two. And I have a clear game plan going into that trade. I have it's a defined setup. And when my game plan starts to work out, I have high confidence in the trade. I can get big position size, and I can give the stock the time it needs for the trade to actually work itself out. And I really extend and I get the most out of that trade. Those are when I have my biggest days. Whether it's one trade, whether it's like one trade or two trades throughout the day, but the ones that I really, really crush. And that doesn't just happen from coincidence. That happens from having a game plan going into a trade. And when that game plan starts to work out, it gives you the confidence you need to get big position size and ride it. Okay? And that's what today is all about with ICPT. ICPT was on my watch list pre-market along with a long list of other stocks. Okay? But I went after this ICPT short, and I caught just about as much as there is to catch in this short. I really rode this one out. I stayed in the winning trade longer because of my tier trading method, and I really caught the most out of it, and it ended up being a really big day. Sometimes, you don't need to be trading 15, 20 different times throughout the day. A lot of people have this misconception or this feeling of anxiety that once the bell rings, they've just got to start going all over the place and trading here and trading there, and my scanner's going off here. This person's talking about this stock on Twitter or whatever, and they're just all over the place. That's not, at least for me, that's not when I have my best days. My best days is when I'm a sniper, not a machine gunner. You don't want to run around and just start machine gunning every single stock that you see come across your screen. You want to be a sniper and pick your spots and only take the shot that you know you can hit. Okay? That's what I'm talking about when I talk about being a sniper versus a machine gunner. It's a concept, it's a mental kind of stability that I talk to all of our members about. And it's really helped me a lot in my trading, and it's when I have some of my biggest days. I made one trade today on ICPT, and it was a big one. So let's get to it, and it is short. Okay, ICPT, we had a big gap up here today. Okay, we had a big gap up right into the teeth of a major resistance level. Okay, right into the teeth of a key resistance level. Here is this resistance level that I want to point out to you. I'll go out to a weekly chart because you can see it even more clearly on a weekly chart. Look at this resistance level in 2017. Then go back to 2016. Look at this support level in 2016. Let's go back to the beginning of 2016. Look at that resistance level. Then let's go back to 2015. Look at this support level. This is a major level in the low 130s, guys. Okay, and this is what I started to see. Then you can also see resistance again right here in 2018. This level is key. It's been key for several years, and we were gapping up right into the teeth of that level. Let's go back to a daily chart, and we'll zoom this out. You guys can see here is that same line. There's all that resistance. And then here's that resistance again in 2018 showing its face. And then we had a big gap up right below that level. This kind of gets me to why was I thinking short? Why was I not thinking long off this gap up? The reason for the thought process to be short on this play is because it was such a it was such a big gap up. It was a large gap up into a very key resistance area. It's one thing if we gapped above that key resistance area, but we were gapping right into it. We were right below that resistance level. When a stock has a large gap up, right into, meaning it's just below a major resistance level, it's very difficult for the stock to have enough momentum after the large gap up to break through that resistance level. If we had, you guys got to realize this stock closed at 110 on Friday, opened up here at like 131. So to just break right through 133, 134 would have required a lot of momentum that the stock just didn't have. And I'll get to that in a second, intraday, and I'll go over that with you. Let's say we didn't close at 110 on Friday. Let's say this is what the chart looked like Okay, let's say this is what the chart looked like on ICPT Thursday and then Friday. And then today, let's say we gapped up right there. Now maybe I'm looking for a breakthrough this resistance level and an extension candle on ICPT, because that's not that large of a gap up. That's not an exhaustion gap. But to gap from 110, okay, so to gap from right here all the way to right here, that's an exhaustion gap. It's going to be very difficult for the stock to now break through that resistance level. Okay, so for that reason, I'm looking at, oh, I just deleted that line by mistake. So for that reason, I'm looking to get short in front of that area. Now, let's go into, that's why I'm thinking to the short side initially, part of my game plan. Now, let's go to the 3-minute. We'll go intraday on this ICPT. Okay, let's zoom this in. We opened up. Okay, the stock opened at 131.50 all the way at the top of this candle. We put in a high of 131.87 and collapsed all the way down to 122. Guys, that's a big drop. You're talking about almost 132. This is almost a 10-point drop. Almost a 10-point drop in minutes right off the bell. That action was telling me that that resistance level that I drew pre-market, and earlier in this video, we went over pre-market with my members in chat. It's showing me that that resistance level is still intact. As soon as the stock opened up right in the teeth of that resistance level, the stock collapsed. 10 points. Okay, it ran away from that resistance level. There wasn't a lot of buying pressure stepping up into the teeth of that resistance. There was selling pressure that came in and pushed the stock down very quickly. So right there, that got my attention, saying I'm going to look to start to position myself short. I'm going to, on this bounce back, I'm not chasing this thing down off the open. I'm waiting for the bounce back, and then I'm going to look to start to position myself short. At the time, the SPY, it was chugging. We gapped down on the SPY and just exploded right off the open and very quickly ripped green. We went red to green and went basically straight up for the first 45 minutes of the day in the market. So the SPY gapped down, new high, new high, new high, new high, new high, new high, okay, for the first 45 minutes of the day. Then we go back to ICPT, collapse away from that resistance level, bounce back. The bounce couldn't even get back to the high of the day. Meanwhile, the SPY is ripping, new high, new high, new high, new high, new high. What my thought process here was, once the market pulls back in, because the market's not just going to go straight up the whole day, okay? The market made its big push in the morning. Once the market tired out, I'm now going to look for ICPT to roll it over and get away from that resistance level. So I went ahead and I got short a tier 1 position right there at 128. Okay, take it to my trade announcements on the day. Let me zoom in. Here you guys can see short tier 1 at 128. Stop loss was the high of the day. I said I'm going to add tier 2 through 125. Okay, why 125? Just because this is a little bit of an area of wrong line, of a little bit of like temporary support here in the middle of the day. It's a little bit lower. There we go. Okay, and then we also start to see a little bit of a wedge pattern start to form. Okay, and what I did was I had this wedge pattern kind of drawn out here, and this is before that happened. So this is the wedge I had drawn, and I said, okay, I'm short here, my tier 1. My stop loss on the tier 1 is going to be the high of the day, so around 131.50. If we get below 125, I'm adding to the position. So right here, we got below 125 and actually added right here at 125.13. So tier 1 at 128, tier 2 at 125.13. My stop loss on the piece that I added, this is very important. My stop loss on the piece that I added is not back to my initial stop loss for the tier 1. Okay, you can't carry the piece you add all the way back up to the high of the day. That's too much risk. I would have got crushed. Okay, at that point, I'm setting my stop loss on that piece that I added at this previous little pivot area, which is right around VWAP, which you can see was resistance, 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 and the top end of that little wedge pattern that I saw there. And that was going to be my stop loss on the piece that I added, while I would have held on to tier 1 back up to the high of the day. Okay, you can't carry the piece you add. You can't have the same stop loss as your initial entry point. You'll get crushed. Okay, you've got to set a different stop loss for the piece you add, and that's how you properly manage your position size, and that's how you properly manage your risk as you get larger position size. Okay, because at this point now I have a large position. Okay, you can see we never got back up. We found resistance here at VWAP, and then we rolled it over at 1030. It's not a coincidence that as I take you to the SPY at 1030, the market pulled in. Okay, and that pull in is all I needed to get ICPT to start to sell. And ICPT starts to sell, and we get right down to the low of the day. Here's your low of the day. Okay, there was your low of the day. We pull in. Right there is your low of the day. We double bottom, and I took some profit off the table right in front of that low just because I don't want to get caught in a double bottom. That was my first take profit target. Back to my trade announcements. So here we are 34 minutes after my initial entry. I covered some at 122.50. Okay, 122.50 right in front of the low of the day of 122. Now I can hold on to the rest of my position and let the stock do what I think it's going to do, and that is fade the gap up. Okay, fade the gap up. I took some risk off the table. I've locked in the profits, and now I'm going to look to see if we can roll over and make a new low of the day. As I pan this out, we had a little bit of a bounce off that double bottom. Never got back above VWAP. Okay, that VWAP, most likely that VWAP area would have been my stop loss on the rest of the position had we got through there. We never did. Rolled back over, broke through the low of the day. I took more profit off right here as we broke through the low of the day. Take you back to my trade announcements at 11:20. So now we're an hour and 20 minutes into my initial entry. Took more profit off. I covered the bulk of my position at 121.20. Okay, 121.20. And then you guys can see we bounced back, tried to get back through that previous double bottom, and we put in a strong denial candle, and then we just rolled it over. And once I saw that denial candle, I knew I was going to get follow through extension to the downside, and my final take profit right there. Here it is at 11:52, 116.56. My final take profit is when I covered the last piece of that ICPT, and there it is. Okay, so I really got the most out of this trade. Tier 1, Tier 2, first take profit, second take profit, final take profit, and you can see as I pan this out, I mean, we really didn't go much lower than that. So I mean, I really, talking about, the catching the bulk of this move. I mean, now that I zoom this out, you can see, how big of a move this actually was on the stock. And, you're talking well over $10 a share. So it was a nice trade. Okay. And that's it. That was my trade on ICPT. I really pulled the most out of it as I could because of that tier trading method. And it worked out really well, and it was a big day for me, and that's all it took. I only made this one trade today. I didn't trade anything else. I didn't need to. And that's why I started the video by saying, one and done. Quality over quantity. Be a sniper, not a machine gunner. And this is why it's so important for you to have a game plan going into the day. You have to have a game plan pre-market. Otherwise, you're never going to have this kind of confidence in a trade. You're not. You're not going to have this type of confidence in a trade if you don't have a pre-market game plan. I was confident in this trade. All the signs that I was looking for were showing their face, and I acted on it. I got size, and I rode it out. I didn't panic out of the position. I'm confident in the trade. So here's my initial entry. Okay, here's my tier 2 add. I didn't panic on this little bounce back. I mean, I added at 125.13. This went all the way back to 127.68. Okay, I didn't panic when that happened. Okay, we came down here. I covered some of the position in front of the low of the day. We went from 122. This went all the way back to 126.30. I didn't panic on that bounce back. I was confident in the trade, and I was able to let the stock do what it needed to do. And that's kind of what the lesson's all about. All right? So nice trade. Was a good one. Remember, guys, be a sniper, not a machine gunner. Come up with a game plan. Get confident. Stick with it. All right? I'll see you guys in chat tomorrow. Take care.